Welcome back to the deep dive. So our mission here, as you know, it's always the same. We take this huge stack of research, all the articles, the corporate documents.
Evidence stuff.
Exactly, the stuff that takes days to get through, and we try to boil it all down for you. We want to give you the pure strategic insight, those critical shortcuts.
Yeah.
So you can walk away well-informed with a few of those aha moments really locked in. Today, we're unpacking a giant of the medical device world, the Cooper Companies, Inc., or Cooper Companies. Now, most people hear that name, and they probably think of just one thing.
Contact lens.
Contact lenses, exactly. But what our source material reveals is, frankly, a stunning strategic depth. This is a company that has engineered its entire structure to profit from two very distinct high-growth and utterly essential corners of global healthcare.
And that's structural duality. I mean, that is the single most important concept we need to understand today. Cooper Companies, it trades as COO on the Nasdaq. It's a component of the S&P 500, so it's a major player. But it isn't a monolithic entity. It's a global medical device holding company headquartered out in San Ramon, California. And it's organized into two powerful business units that function almost entirely separately.
A deliberate lack of synergy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. In modern corporate strategy, synergy, finding that overlap and efficiency is usually the goal. So what's the benefit of keeping these two colossal businesses, vision and surgery, so structurally separate?
Well, the benefit is focused market dominance and a lot of operational stability through diversification. You should think of them as two highly optimized engines, each running on a different kind of fuel.
There.
The first engine is CooperVision, or CVI, that handles the massive recurring revenue stream of the contact lens market. And the second is CooperSurgical, CSI, which is the high-stakes, high-margin, technologically complex unit. And it's focused squarely on women's healthcare, fertility solutions, and genomics.
The contact lenses and the fertility tech. It is a bizarre pairing, isn't it? When I first looked at the sources, I really thought, what common ground do these two things have? I mean, a box of daily disposables and a massive fertility genomics lab. What do they possibly share?
And that's the right question. The common thread isn't the product, it's the necessity. It's the market. Both CVI and CSI, they address non-negotiable health needs or, fundamental human desires.
Right.
And both of these markets, routine vision correction and reproductive health, are showing strong global growth trajectories. So this duality becomes a brilliant, if unconventional, hedge against economic or regulatory headwinds.
And that balance is the key to understanding the company's, $4 billion plus revenue scale?
Exactly. That's the foundation of it all.
Okay, so this kind of strategic clarity, it's not built overnight. It takes decades of trying things, failing at things, and constantly reorganizing. Let's walk through the company's history, because the story here isn't one of stability. It's about a constant, sometimes almost frantic search for the most profitable strategic focus.
Precisely. If we trace the lineage way back, I mean, we're talking late 1950s here.
Right.
The company was first established in 1958, and its first name was the Martin H. Smith Co.
The Martin H. Smith Co., so a very personal, sort of founder-driven name to start.
A simple start, and it was likely focused on a pretty narrow range of products, we can assume.
And they pivoted very quickly. Just 3 years later, in 1961, it incorporates under a slightly more official and medically focused name, Cooper Tinsley Laboratories, Inc. That shift, from a personal name to including laboratories in the title, that signals an early ambition.
It does, an ambition to be involved in research and development, maybe even pharmaceuticals. It sets a tone for scientific endeavor right from the get-go. And by 1967, they streamline that identity even further. They land on Cooper Laboratories, Inc. They carried that name through the rest of the decade, cementing themselves as a player focused on clinical development and, potentially broad medical applications. But the pivotal moment, the moment they really set the stage for their modern structure, that came in the early 1970s.
And that's the entry point into vision. That's the big one. In 1972, the company acquired a British lens maker, Global Vision. This acquisition didn't just add a product line, it fundamentally It baked ophthalmic technology right into the company's DNA.
It absolutely did. It redefined their long-term direction. They were now on the path to being a major player in corrective vision, which of course became the foundation for CooperVision.
And that successful pivot, that led to the chaotic, expansive era of the 1980s.
Yes. That decade was so critical because it showed the company testing the limits of its identity, trying to figure out what it wanted to be.
And it looks less like discipline and more like diversification by committee, especially when you look at the structure they had in 1980. Cooper Laboratories undergoes this major reorganization, and it segments itself into three initial business groups. You've got CooperVision, CooperCare, and Cooper Biomedical.
It was a classic throw everything at the wall and see what sticks strategy. You have the nascent, successful CooperVision. Then you have CooperCare, which was likely focusing on general consumer medical products or some kind of specialty care. And then Cooper Biomedical, which was aimed at advanced life sciences or diagnostics. The company was trying to capture value across multiple, very different therapeutic areas.
And they just kept piling on more structure a year later. In 1981, they added a fourth group.
Cooper Medical Devices Corp.
Right, and this aggressive expansion. I mean, now you've got four distinct business lines: vision, care, biomedical, and devices.
It just points to this period of trying to cover, well, everything in the healthcare landscape.
And that's often just unsustainable, right?
Yeah.
Trying to manage four different R&D pipelines, all the different regulatory burdens.
It's a lot, and that's why the late 1980s were marked by consolidation. They had to rein it in.
So in 1987, the company finally adopts its current, more institutional-sounding name, the Cooper Companies.
And that name change, it reflected a transition. They were moving from a pure laboratory identity to a diversified holding company structure. It was preparing them to manage multiple distinct entities, even if they were still figuring out exactly what those entities were going to be.
The structural evolution that really locked in the duality we see today, that happened in 1990. They restructured again, this time into three very specific business units: CooperVision, CooperSurgical, and CooperVision Pharmaceuticals.
And this is the formal birth of CooperSurgical. They've identified a second core competency outside of just vision, specifically in the surgical and medical device space.
But look at that third pillar, CooperVision Pharmaceuticals.
Right.
This tells us they were still trying to leverage their vision expertise into high-margin drug development.
Yeah.
Eye drops or other complementary ophthalmic drugs.
But that unit, it didn't last. The source material is very clear that it was dissolved in 2003.
And it's so interesting how they built up all these units only to ultimately decide to shed the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about where they saw the real profit margins?
Yeah.
And maybe where they were most competitive?
It told them their strength lies in devices and technologies, not in drug development. Pharmaceuticals are. They're incredibly capital intensive, they're risky, and they have extremely long R&D cycles. By shedding the pharma unit in 2003, they solidified the streamlined dual structure that we see today. Two focused non-pharmaceutical medical device leaders, CooperVision and CooperSurgical. They basically recognized they could dominate the device markets far more effectively than the chemistry markets.
So the history is really a story of narrowing focus. You go from this broad laboratories trying to do everything in the 80s to a highly disciplined dual focus on contact lenses and specialty surgical devices by the early 2000s. That history, it really sets the stage for a very specific strategic approach in both of those markets.
It speaks volumes about their strategic discipline. I mean, to walk away from a large investment like a pharmaceutical division, that's a hard choice, but it shows they acknowledge that the future really lay in the recurring revenue of CVI and the specialized high-margin opportunities that were being developed in CSI.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the first of those two pillars then. We're going to dive deep into CooperVision, the contact lens giant.
Yeah, so CooperVision, it's built on two things, really: scale and routine interaction. They serve millions of contact lens wearers, of course, but the truly strategic relationship they maintain is with the eye care practitioners all over the globe. Those practitioners, they're the ones writing the prescription and recommending the brand, so it's a very sophisticated B2B2C model.
That's exactly right. CVI operates a highly effective razor and blades business model.
Ah, the classic. The classic. The eye doctor is the razor. They get you locked into the system, often recommending CVI products. And the lenses. The lenses are the blades. They continuous, high-volume, necessary consumables. Their market position is just so robust because, human vision correction is non-negotiable for millions, and it requires constant replenishment.
Let's break down that core product portfolio, which really provides the bedrock of their revenue. The entire range of disposable lenses is covered, which ensures they have an offering for basically every budget and lifestyle choice.
We can categorize their offerings by wear frequency, which reflects consumer choice and, of course, cost. So at the high end, the premium segment, you have the daily disposable contact lenses.
Right, the most convenient.
The peak of convenience and hygiene. They're designed to be thrown away after just one use, which eliminates the need for all those cleaning solutions. And, this is the fastest growing segment globally, so CooperVision's presence here ensures it captures that high-value consumer.
And then, of course, they offer the more traditional segments that capture market share from the cost-conscious or, the habitual wearers.
Precisely. They also manufacture the 2-week disposable contact lenses and the traditional monthly disposable contact lenses. And strategically, offering all three of those frequencies allows CVI to capture market share at multiple price points. It prevents leakage to competitors and maintains loyalty within the CooperVision brand family.
So that breadth of portfolio provides immense revenue stability.
Immense.
It's the mass market coverage that provides the volume, but the real strategic advantage, and I think where the higher margins often reside, is in their specialty lenses. This is where they move from simple material science to a highly complex, customized design.
And that ability to address complex vision issues is what differentiates them from just being a commodity producer. It's a huge moat. CVI focuses on 4 key areas of vision correction that require real technical mastery.
Starting with the basics, they offer spherical lenses. That's for correcting simple nearsightedness, or myopia, or farsightedness, hyperopia. But beyond that, things get much more complicated.
Yes. Next up are the toric lenses, which are specifically designed to correct astigmatism.
Which is incredibly common.
A massive segment. Astigmatism is so common, but the design is highly challenging. The lens needs to remain perfectly stable and oriented correctly on the eye. They often use features like prism ballasting or thin zones to prevent it from rotating when the patient blinks.
Next,
A poorly designed toric lens is basically unusable, so mastery in this area is a significant competitive barrier.
And that technical precision, the rotational stability of a toric lens, that's a hallmark of advanced manufacturing.
Absolutely. And then the third specialty area targets presbyopia. That's the age-related hardening of the eye's lens. They use multifocal lenses for this. These are arguably the most complex to design.
Why is that?
Because they have to incorporate different prescriptive powers for near, intermediate, and far vision, all on one tiny lens. So that requires complex concentric or segmented zones on the lens surface. Successfully fitting a multifocal lens, it requires excellent design from the manufacturer and really careful practice from the eye doctor.
So you have spherical, toric, and multifocal. That covers the major refractive errors. But the strategic trajectory of CVI, that's best seen through their targeted acquisitions, which are pushing them into these cutting-edge, niche, corrective, and even preventative markets.
The 2005 acquisition of Ocular Sciences, Inc. was a foundational early move. It was about consolidating their base and scaling their general lens manufacturing capacity.
More of a market share grab.
It was about growing market share through inorganic means, exactly.
But the 2022 acquisition of Ensires, that tells a much more specific story. It's about strategic niche focus. This wasn't about acquiring another general lens company. It was about acquiring very specific technological expertise.
That is the crucial distinction. Ensires is a supplier of 2 highly specialized and non-standard types of lenses, orthokeratology, or ortho-K, and scleral contact lenses. These are the high-cost, high-service requirement issues that a lot of competitors often ignore.
Let's focus on ortho-K first, because for many of our listeners, this might be a new concept. Orthokeratology is not just about vision correction. It's also about preventative vision management, and predominantly for children.
That's exactly right. Ortho-K lenses are rigid, gas-permeable lenses. The magic really happens while the wearer sleeps. They temporarily and reversibly reshape the cornea overnight, which allows the patient to see clearly during the day without any glasses or contacts.
Wow.
But the real market driver here, the big thing, is myopia control for children and teenagers.
Myopia, or nearsightedness, is just. It's reaching epidemic proportions globally, and slowing its progression, which can reduce the risks of severe eye disease later in life, that is a massive public health goal.
And ortho-K is one of the key non-pharmacological methods for this.
So by acquiring Ensires, CooperVision basically cemented its position in this highly specialized, high-growth, pediatric-focused segment.
A very sticky market. It requires ongoing monitoring, specialized fitting.
Which translates directly into highly durable, high-margin revenue streams.
Exactly. Often lasting for many years as the child grows.
Okay, and then there are the scleral lenses. These are the truly specialized products typically used when standard soft lenses or even glasses fail.
Scleral lenses are much larger than standard contacts. They vault entirely over the cornea and they rest only on the sclera, which is the white part of the eye.
Okay.
They're critical for managing complex corneal conditions, things like severe dry eye, post-surgical corneas, or irregular corneas caused by diseases like keratoconus.
And because they create a fluid reservoir between the lens and the cornea, they're actually therapeutic. So
Yeah.
why are they a strategic win for CVI?
Because they're customized, they're complex to manufacture, they require highly specialized practitioner training, and they serve a captive patient population with chronic needs.
So higher price point.
They command significantly higher prices, sometimes thousands of dollars per pair. And they face very limited competition compared to the general disposable lens market, where CooperVision is battling giants like Johnson & Johnson and Alcon every single day.
So the strategy is brilliantly dual, even within the CVI unit itself. You dominate the high-volume, recurring revenue disposable market, and you dominate the high-margin, specialized, complex, niche markets using targeted M&A like Ensires.
It creates enormous stability. The daily disposable business covers the vast manufacturing overhead, while the specialty lenses provide the high margins and the competitive differentiation. It's a really comprehensive approach that ensures market resilience.
And that sets the stage for a fascinating contrast when we pivot to the other side of the company, to CooperSurgical. If CooperVision is this high-volume consumer goods model, CooperSurgical is a highly specialized B2B medtech model.
The CooperSurgical story is where we find the most aggressive recent growth and I think the most significant financial commitment. This unit, born out of that 1990 reorganization, has a mission that is highly focused on women's health, surgical devices, and critically, fertility and genomics.
And this market is just vastly different from selling lenses. It involves complex surgical procedures, high-cost equipment, rigorous clinical validation.
And highly sensitive patient interactions.
Right. So why is CSI positioned as a high-growth engine right now?
Because of underlying societal shifts. I mean, while the global birth rate is declining, the demand for assisted reproductive technology, or RT, is skyrocketing.
Okay.
You have factors like delayed parenthood, elective egg freezing, and just general improvements in IVF success rates. All of this means that this sector, though it's expensive, is relatively recession-resistant and shows immense global growth potential.
So we connect this to the bigger picture. This unit is positioned to capitalize on those massive demographic and social trends.
And that inherent accelerating demand, that explains the extraordinary financial commitment we saw between 2021 and 2022. This was a 15-month period of high-intensity, high-value acquisitions aimed at rapidly establishing CooperSurgical as a global leader in reproductive health.
So they weren't just adding product lines, they were acquiring entire platforms.
Entire platforms, exactly.
Let's start with the groundwork they laid in early 2021 before the mega deals started hitting.
In February 2021, they acquired AG Medical, a medical manufacturing company. That likely expanded their portfolio in minimally invasive surgical devices. Then a month later, March 2021, they picked up Safe Obstetric Systems, which added specific technologies aimed at improving safety and outcomes in obstetric care.
So smart, targeted device additions to start.
Yes.
But the strategic decision that I think shocked the market and really changed the narrative for CooperSurgical, that was the move at the end of 2021.
Absolutely. December 2021 saw the colossal acquisition of Generate Life Sciences for $1.6 billion.
$1.6 billion.
This isn't just a large deal. It signaled their intent to move beyond just surgical devices and into the core life sciences and genomics that are required for modern fertility treatment.
A deal that big demands some deep justification. What specifically did Generate Life Sciences give CooperSurgical for that price tag?
It gave them critical infrastructure in biobanking, so storage services for sperm, eggs, and embryos, and, most importantly, a deep push into advanced genetic services. This includes pre-implantation genetic testing, or PGT, which is absolutely essential for maximizing IVF success.
Okay, so we're talking about things like PGTA testing, pre-implantation genetic testing for aneuploidy, where you're screening embryos for chromosomal abnormalities before implantation. That's cutting-edge science. It requires specialized labs, bioinformatic expertise, and just rigorous regulatory compliance.
Exactly. That $1.6 billion bought them the pipeline for the scientific future of fertility. The testing, the screening, the sophisticated data management required to integrate genomics right into IVF success rates. It immediately put them in the same league as other major life science providers in this space. And that is vastly different from being a contact lens manufacturer.
And they didn't even pause for breath. Just 3 months later, March 2022, comes the second massive deal. The $875 million acquisition of Cook Medical's reproductive health business. This move was about consolidating the existing established market.
Cook Medical is a known, respected name in devices, so this deal instantly provided CooperSurgical with decades of trust and market presence. The acquired assets included Cook Medical's long-standing, established IVF and OB/GYN businesses.
So if Generate Life Sciences was the investment in the future, the genomics, the biobanking Cook Medical was the investment in the present.
That's a perfect way to put it.
It's the essential established devices and media required for performing IVF procedures right now, all over the world.
Yes. Think about all the consumables involved in IVF. Specialized culture media, micropipettes, catheters, devices for egg retrieval, for embryo transfer. These are highly specialized, high-margin products that fertility clinics rely on every single day. So acquiring Cook gave CooperSurgical those proven product lines and, crucially, it gave them access to established distribution channels and relationships with thousands of fertility clinics worldwide.
Let's just reflect on the sheer scale of this investment for a second. $1.6 billion for genomics, $875 million for established IVF devices. That's nearly $2.5 billion spent on major acquisitions in this one niche market, all within a roughly 15-month window. That's a staggering commitment. What did Wall Street think of that sudden spending spree?
Well, the market recognized the strategic value almost immediately. I mean, while such aggressive spending typically raises some debt concerns, in this case, it was a clear demonstration of intent, an intent to dominate a high-growth sector. The cost is justified by the expected returns in this high-margin, specialized medical segment. It signaled a move away from incremental growth and toward market leadership consolidation in reproductive health.
The duality is just so striking. CooperVision is maximizing volume, efficiency, the consumer subscription model, all in a stable, established market. And CooperSurgical is maximizing innovation, high margins, and specialized services in a rapid growth, high-stakes B2B market.
The only real overlap is the underlying corporate infrastructure and the capital allocation strategy.
And critically, the technological and regulatory paths for each unit are divergent, aren't they?
Completely divergent. CVI deals with FDA regulation primarily focused on material safety and lens efficacy, typical of consumer medical devices. CSI, especially with genomics and IVF, deals with complex, often regionally variable, and highly scrutinized regulations surrounding human reproductive technology and clinical outcomes. So managing those two diverse regulatory landscapes simultaneously is a critical strategic requirement for the leadership.
That successful, aggressive pivot in CooperSurgical means they are now not just a medical device company, but a critical provider of life science and genomic services that are underpinning global fertility treatment.
And to truly appreciate the success of this strategic duality, we have to look at the financial results. The figures from 2025, derived from our source material, clearly demonstrate that this dual-engine strategy has created a massive, financially robust, and influential enterprise.
The numbers really do validate the strategy. Let's break down the sheer scale of operation using that 2025 data. We're looking at a revenue figure that firmly places them in the global medical elite. Revenue of US $4.09 billion.
That $4 billion figure is crucial. It confirms that both CVI and CSI are operating at scale, and that the company is successfully generating massive cash flows from two distinct operational bases. You don't hit that number by relying on a single narrow product line.
No. And focusing on profitability, the operational efficiency is impressive. Their operating income was US $683 million. That's a very healthy operating margin, which suggests that they're effectively managing the vast global supply chain of CVI and the specialized R&D and clinical support overhead of CSI.
And the bottom line confirms the success. Net income stood at US $375 million, and that robust net profitability is what fuels the kind of aggressive, multi-billion-dollar M&A strategy we just detailed in the CooperSurgical segment. You have to have deep pockets and consistent performance to make those types of market-defining moves.
The balance sheet also reflects a company built not just for short-term profit, but for long-term strategic stability. Their total assets were listed at a staggering US $12.4 billion.
And even more telling is the total equity of US $8.24 billion. High total equity signifies financial solidity and significant shareholder value. It gives them leverage and resilience, and it assures the market they can handle the debt load and integration challenges that come with those massive recent acquisitions.
The sheer human scale required to manage these two contrasting businesses globally is also enormous. The company employs 15,000 employees worldwide. And that workforce encompasses everything from factory floors turning out billions of lenses in CVI to PhD-level geneticists running advanced screening laboratories in CSI.
Managing a workforce of 15,000 across those diverse operational models is a huge strategic challenge in itself. It requires completely different HR, R&D, and regulatory compliance departments for each business unit.
And the person steering this complex ship, making sure the two engines don't collide, is the key leadership figure, Albert G. White III, the president and CEO. I mean, leading a company that simultaneously sells a consumer product and a high-cost, specialized clinical service that requires a remarkable level of strategic flexibility and operational mastery.
It requires an executive focus that then shift seamlessly between the high-volume cost optimization metrics of CVI and the high-value clinical outcome metrics of CSI. This complexity is why the company's status is so significant.
And to wrap up their standing, the company's California headquarters, its listing on the Nasdaq as COO, and most importantly, its inclusion as an S&P 500 component, all confirm its status.
That S&P 500 inclusion, that's the stamp of systemic importance. It means the financial world views Cooper companies as one of the most reliable, robust, and representative stocks in the American equity market. Their successful execution of this highly differentiated strategic duality has earned them a spot at the top table of global medical device manufacturing.
So they successfully navigated decades of organizational shifts. They landed on a structurally brilliant dual focus. And then they deployed billions of dollars to ensure market dominance in both routine eye care and complex women's reproductive health. That is a compelling blueprint for strategic success in the 21st century.
What's that? So what does this deep dive all mean for you? Well, whether you're a market analyst tracking medical innovation, a healthcare professional, or simply a learner curious about how major global corporations structure themselves for growth, Cooper Companies offers a really powerful case study in strategic diversification.
The core knowledge we've gained today is that Cooper Companies is strategically far more complex than its public image might suggest. It's a globally focused medical device player whose structure allows it to dominate two indispensable markets: the stable recurring revenue stream of vision care via CooperVision, and the high-growth, high-margin specialized realm of reproductive and women's health via CooperSurgical. We saw CVI mastering that razor and blades model, pushing into highly specialized, profitable niches like ortho-K for myopia control, and scleral lenses for complex corneal conditions.
And we saw the fierce commitment of CSI, where nearly $2.5 billion was spent in just over a year to acquire platform leadership in fertility, IVF, and advanced genomics like PGTA testing. This aggressive M&A strategy is designed to capture leadership in a rapidly evolving high-stakes medical field.
And that divergence between the technological and market demands of the two units, that's where the company's future complexity lies. And it forms the basis of our final provocative thought.
Indeed. We've detailed how CooperVision's focus is on high-volume manufacturing and material science, while CooperSurgical is deeply invested in custom clinical services, advanced genomics, and highly regulated surgical devices. The operational requirements for each are vastly different. So this raises an important question for you to analyze in the future. How will the company manage the inherent strategic tension, the technological, the supply chain, and the talent divergence between a high-volume, price-competitive market like disposable contact lenses and a high-cost, rapidly evolving market like fertility genomics and women's surgery?
Right.
Success requires two completely different organizational mindsets running under one corporate umbrella. Tracking how Cooper Companies maintains that unity and efficiency across such radical diversity, that is the next great strategic test as you continue to follow this major player in global healthcare.
That's a deep dive that gives you plenty to explore and chew on. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.